Hey, I'm Ed Bolian from VINwiki, and once again, I'm in downtown Miami at Curated with John Temerian, talking collector cars of a decade. Today, it's the 2010s. How are you,
Love it.
sir?
How are you, sir?
Thanks for joining me. You know, more and more we're seeing these newer cars show up in your showroom because they are curated worthy. These are cars that people are already collecting in the anticipation of what
Yes,
they might do and how much fun they are to have
of
right
course.
now. And honestly, and how usable these cars are. I mean, we've always talked about daily driver supercars and things like that, but the cars that they built in the last decade really are things that you can put miles on. We're seeing them rack up. And one of the places that we see these cars racking up in miles coming on the market is Auto Tempest. Autotempest.com, all the cars one search. They've been a sponsor of ours now for 6 years, and we appreciate them making content like this possible. But even more than that, we love it because it's the best place to shop for your next car. Whether you're looking to see what the market for your car is doing because you're not quite there yet, it is the best way to do that. But also, whenever you're ready to pull the trigger, they're going to show up there first because they've got the results from all the major listing sites in one place. So be sure to check them out now at the link in the description below, helping them help support us, and we'll try to keep fun content like this coming. But our goal in this series has been to come up with the most iconic collector cars for each of these decades, such that if we see somebody who has a great 2010s car collection 50 years from now, this is what we believe you're most likely to see when you walk into their warehouse or their showroom or wherever they're at. And I don't think you could possibly ignore the McLaren P1 near the top of the list.
Now, we haven't owned one yet, but I've spoken to a few major collectors, and they've told me it's probably one of their favorite
For
cars all
sure.
around to drive and use. So I am dying at some point to have one in inventory to at least try it a little bit. But I would agree, it is sort of this successor to the F1 in so many ways. McLaren got it so right. The new car should be coming out the end of this year, the replacement of the P1. So that is even, I think, further giving excitement to the original P1, which changed the world for McLaren.
100%. Now, of course, the 2010s were the era of the hybrid supercars, and the different ways that the manufacturers solve this long term is going to be hugely impactful on what the values are and how they are perceived. And so, you know, we are seeing high voltage battery failures on P1s, LaFerraris,
All of the
918s,
cars, yes.
Ageras. They're all trying different ideas of what they can do with the, putting speed tail batteries in them and other things like that. And so, also being pioneered by our good friend Freddie Tavares Hernandez to decide how to eliminate such a system. And so I think there's going to be a lot of solutions there, and I think that's necessary because otherwise these cars are going to be awfully hard to own.
You said it, and it'll be a brick.
That's it. I think the next one has to be the Koenigsegg's of the era. We've loved seeing Stradman's content about his Agera. I think those cars represent so much in terms of what the brand was in that moment and still is in terms of the most iconic things.
Well, I think Koenigsegg's fight with Bugatti and the other manufacturers in terms of being the fastest car in the world is really, to me, in my mind, what sets the Agera apart is those insane tests that they were doing and
Absolutely.
things like that. So again, it's a must on the list.
100%. The Huayra also has to belong. I don't think it's necessarily anybody's favorite over a Zonda, but still represents an amazing chapter in Pagani's history. In the anticipation of the Utopia coming out, you're going to start to see people collecting these vertical collections
Yes.
of Pagani's. Pagani's done so many amazing things in evolving the car and
Yep.
adding Tempesta packages and variants and everything that we love. I think it's a lovely car to drive. I love how many miles we see racking up on Huayras, and you see them on rallies, and they seem to generally behave themselves. A little weird on the transmission perspective,
Yes.
just in what they've done, but a great Mercedes V12, lots to love.
And I think it is, the Huayra is really what's made Pagani a household name.
Yes.
It really cemented them as a production car brand.
100%. Now, the Ferrari LaFerrari, alongside all of the Ferrari supercars, belongs in this generation as they do in theirs. I think it is as beautiful as anything the brand has ever made. Yeah, they are usable, they are comfortable, and they are as iconic as you'd ever want a car to be.
100%. I think the only thing is, again, which you commented on, with the exception of the battery technology, which is scary if your battery goes bad. I think the LaFerrari is incredible car, and I think it'll be even more appreciated once the new car comes out, which will be first shown in October of this year. The F250, as they call it now, we'll know the official name, which will not be a V12. So again, we'll look back at the LaFerrari as potentially the last V12 from the supercar bunch.
100%. Now, the Ford GT, 1,350 cars, absolutely belongs right here. Even with its little V6, I
Yeah.
still think it is as beautiful as a car could ever want to be. It It's not my favorite car to drive, but I think, it's one of these things that just stops traffic in
Yes.
every possible way. They've had success racing the car, a
Yes.
huge part of the pedigree of any of these cars on this list. And I don't think you can talk about 2010s cars without that.
I agree, and I think it's, again, one of those usable cars, great cars. They seem to, as trade as a commodity, they're consistent around $1 million, give or take, with mileage and things like that, and they're beautiful,
Yep.
beautiful.
I've got the 918 on the list alongside the other hypercar holy trinity of the era. I think that is well deserved. To me, I can't wrap my head around the fact that a 918 is currently worth more than a P1, but I think what Porsche has done holistically as a brand is what has reinforced the values of 959s,
Yes,
Courage GTs, and 918s. And
yes.
I think, as the world of 911s has gotten so crazy, I think the idea of just being a great Porsche collector and having those cars lined up in your garage is about as good as it gets.
I will add to that and say I'm still shocked that the 918 is more expensive than a Carrera GT with similar production numbers, but
And the same enthusiasts chasing them, right?
but 918 is a perfect car. It does everything right. But I agree with you that this generation of Porsche collectors will further chase up the flagship cars like the 918 and Carrera GT.
No question. The Bugatti Chiron has to be on this list. It is as iconic a 2010s car as anything could want to be. Certainly follows beautifully in the steps of the Veyron and in the EB110, and we're excited about the Tourbillon to follow. I think about that a lot. Like, all right, let's say that you were going to build a $10 or $15 million collection, which I have no mental ability to even, triangulate my life towards. But do you go with the Ferrari supercars? Do you go with the Paganis? Do you go with the Bugattis? But I'll tell you, an EB110 Veyron Chiron Tourbillon is a nice thing to walk into relative to the others.
Yes.
So is, of course, the Lambo varieties. And
Yes.
so I don't have an Aventador on this list, though. I do have
Wait a minute.
a Veneno, Sesto Elemento, Centenario. I think those kind of ultra rare variants,
Yeah.
but I don't think a standard, which is a very inappropriate word in the context,
Yes.
Aventador rises to the top 10 because of the production volume. There's nearly as many as there are Gallardos built,
Yes.
but the special run, I think all has to be there.
I agree. I think if you had to put one on the list, it's maybe a Aventador 50th or an Aventador SV because the numbers are so low. But yeah, there are a lot of Aventadors made. Veneno is just so iconic. But I agree with you. It's one of those unique variants that will be important.
But I think we're probably on the same page here. If we were going to own any Lamborghini of the decade, it's a Sesto Elemento.
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah, as cool as it gets.
No question.
Now, another one, the Lexus LFA. You've got one downstairs.
I did not appreciate them until recently. I was sort of the camp of, okay, it's a Lexus, and but you really have to think about, Toyota as a motorsports
Yes.
entity is one of the most important in the world when it comes to racing and motorsports and all these things. And what they did with that car is just spectacular. The sound of the car, the fit and finish, all of the carbon fiber work. So you can't go wrong with an LFA. The pricing lately has been very consistent.
It has.
And
yes.
it's been, we're talking big numbers from years ago when you couldn't give the cars away for, I remember when we first opened, I was looking at a car at $275 and I was completely scared.
I turned down a Toss Keys deal on my roof.
There you go.
I might have never gotten the title, but it's for another day.
Another day.
But I agree. And I think when you look at a car like an LFA, in the same way that when you look at a car like an 0506 Ford GT, if you want to have a Japanese car, in the same way that if you wanted to have an American supercar, they're your primary target. And that means that it will almost irrationally promote the values of these cars. And I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
And I think that, Jeremy Clarkson said it was the greatest car he ever drove. I think more than half of the value is based on that sentence alone. That is an opinion everyone cares about, and
Yes.
it's a lovely thing to see.
Yes, and I think it's, most importantly, you can argue it's the greatest Japanese car ever built.
100%.
Yep.
And you can't argue with that being a very good basis of value.
Yes.
Another one I love is an Aston 177.
Absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful, very expensive though. When you think of the pricing today, we were trying to buy one last year and $2 million car. Now they're super rare, they're absolutely gorgeous, but very, very cool and very special for its time.
Exactly. And that does beg the question, is there a point at which the price relative to the value, maybe that's the right phrase to use, takes it out of being consideration as sufficiently iconic. You know, is there a price at which a Zonda no longer counts, or even an F1 no longer counts because there's not real passionate driving collectors in a position to buy the cars? And maybe that's where a 177 gets. Not that it doesn't merit, based on its rarity, based
Yes.
on its significance to the
Yeah.
brand, and based on what the car is, to be there. But I don't know, there's an argument to be made.
I agree. I agree.
Tons of bubble cars that I would say. I think the Senna, along with special cars like a 688 High Sport or an all-carbon 675 Spyder, belong very near, if not on this list.
Yes.
An SL65 Black Series, an SLS Black
I am
Series.
shocked the SLS didn't really make it to the top
It's
list,
competitive.
but it's so close. I think they're just stunning. They do everything right. The service costs are not bad at all as well.
Sure.
And I think the Black Series is just it's a beast.
It is. It
It's
is.
a
And
beast.
so you would never be wrong to have it alongside these cars. We always struggle with which 911 to put on the list. I think, you know, whether it was a 997.2 RS or a 911R, they're all wonderful. Again, I don't think you could point to this is the 911 of the decade to have, and that takes it out a little bit. I love a Dodge Viper ACR Extreme a lot. I love the value of these cars today. I love what it's going to become.
I agree.
I think they are so cool.
I agree.
I also think the 599 really fits, whether it's a manual car, a GTO, an SA.
I just see the GTO continuing to go up in value. You know, they're limited cars, they're usable. It doesn't hurt that it has the GTO moniker as well.
Yes.
But I'm just a massive fan, and I think the 599, I mean, in general, is a very iconic car from that period.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ignored the status with the brand and what it was going to get you in the future, and you just thought, like, what is the most status, enjoyment, beauty, presence?
Yes.
A 599 GTO stands up
Yes,
nicely.
agreed.
The other car I put on the list, I don't even know, it's as much a 90s car as it is, but a Singer. I think that, you know, when you think about 2010s cars and building one of those collections, it fits.
It fits, and I think the brand, you know, that's when the brand exploded,
Right.
and that's when the brand became so important and so recognized. And now they're you know, they're gonna, I think they built 400 cars to date.
That's
They're
it.
planning to build another, you know, hundreds and hundreds of cars. So it's remarkable how that brand started, and I would say you have to consider them as an important manufacturer today, or restorer, as they say,
Reimaginer.
reimaginer. But again, an important part of this timeline in supercars and cars of its time.
Absolutely. So let us know in the comments if you think we've missed any critically important and iconic cars of the 2010s. It's obviously been an era that it's been so much fun to be a car enthusiast, to be a car dealer, to be a car storyteller, whatever it is we call ourselves. But let us know which ones you love. And once again, please check out our sponsor, Auto Tempest, at the link in the description below. Literally, please click it right now, because you going there to search for your next car or see what the values are doing is what allows us to have so much fun, make so much content that I hope you'll continue to enjoy. Let us know what other decade you'd like to hear about, and we'll do our best to brainstorm. But thank you to John, thank you to Dan Doucette, who helps me with the research on these things, and we'll be back more with some more iconic cars of a different time period, maybe with mostly supercars on it, because that's what we love.